This is chapter 11, section 2, the Roman Empire and Religion. So again, we'll probably break this into two videos so that we don't have one that is too long. So it starts with, if you were there. You are a Roman soldier stationed in one of the empire's provinces. So that means any area of Rome outside of the Italian peninsula. You are proud that you've been helping bring Roman culture to this place far from the city of Rome. But one group of local people refuses to take part in official Roman holidays and rituals, saying it is against their religious beliefs. Other than that, they seem peaceful. Even so, some soldiers think that this group is dangerous. What will you do about this group? Well, be honest, if it was me, I would just let them do their thing. Like, I would probably encourage them or like ask them, or maybe I would talk to them and find out why they don't want to participate in the Roman holidays and rituals. And like, what is it about it that makes it against their religious beliefs? Like, what are their beliefs? Because if they're just being peaceful, like if they're not doing anything and they're not fighting or like destroying stuff, then I would just let them be. But that's what I would do. You can tell me what you would do in the comments. Building background. As the Roman Empire expanded, it came to include many people who spoke many different languages and followed many different religions. While Roman officials were generally tolerant of local religions and cultures, they did not allow anything, like the religion noted above, that might threaten their authority. So, in other words, they were very okay with you doing your own thing as long as it didn't threaten anything about Roman authority. So, religious tolerance and conflict. Tolerance means that it's allowed, like you're okay with it. And conflict, obviously, is when two things clash or they fight. All right. So, religious tolerance and conflict. The Romans were very religious people, and they held many festivals to honor their in honor of their gods. However, they did not insist on imposing their beliefs on others. Freedom of worship. When the Romans conquered people, they generally allowed them to keep their own religious beliefs and customs. Sometimes these beliefs also spread to the Romans who lived nearby. As time passed, the Romans built temples to these adopted gods, and the people worshiped them throughout the empire. For example, many Romans worshiped the Olympian gods of Greece. When the Romans conquered Greece, they learned about Greek mythology, and before long, the Greek gods became the main gods of Rome as well. Although they were known by different names, in the same way, many Romans also adopted gods and beliefs from the Egyptians, Gauls, and Persians. In their religious lives, the Romans were very practical. They were not sure which gods did or did not exist. To avoid offending any god, the Romans prayed to a wide variety of gods and goddesses. So that helped answer question 1A, and 1B is about to follow. The only time the Romans banned a religion or said you cannot practice it, that's what banned means, is when the rulers of Rome considered it a political problem. In these cases, government officials took steps to prevent problems. Sometimes they placed restrictions on when and where members of a religion could meet. Judaism was one religion that some Roman leaders came to consider a political problem. So to review or to summarize, Rome was very practical when it came to religious beliefs. And they were like, you do you, like you practice whatever you want to practice, you worship whomever you want to worship. Like, who am I to say it's right or wrong? And a lot of times they even adopted and they said, hey, that's a pretty cool idea, or I like that festival, or that sounds like a really cool thing. And they took it as their own as well. And so they were very allowing of everyone to practice their own way and to do their own thing, as long as it didn't cause problems. So as long as it wasn't a political problem. As long as people weren't rebelling, as long as people weren't fighting back, if they were just like, you go over on your side, you go over on your side and you do your thing, and you go over on your side and you do your thing, it was totally okay. All right. So that's a little bit of a review of the freedom to worship. Clashes with the Jews. Unlike the Romans, the Jews did not worship many gods. They believed that their God was the only God. Some Romans thought that the Jews insulted Roman gods by not praying to them. Still, the Romans did not attempt to ban Judaism in the empire. So in other words, the ban means to not allow. So even though they didn't like it and they found it actually offensive, they didn't say they couldn't worship. They were like, "Oh, okay, not really happy, but you practice the way you want to practice." They allowed the Jews to keep their religion and practice as they pleased. The Jews, however, created political conflict by rebelling against Roman rule. Judea, the territory in which most Jews lived, had been conquered by Rome in 63 BC. Since then, many Jews had resented or didn't like Roman rule. They did not want to answer to outsiders. As a result, the Jews rebelled against the Romans, and in AD 66 to 70, there were other disturbances as well, but each time the Jews were defeated. So the Jews were an independent group of people, and they lived in an area or a province called Judea, and they wanted to rule themselves. Like a lot of people want to be independent and have their own country. And so they didn't like being ruled by the Romans, and so they kept fighting back. They kept having little rebellions. Here we have a picture of one of the temples that they built to their Roman gods. This is the Pantheon in Rome. So this is one of those buildings that you could make a model of for your final project. So pretty impressive. All right, so back to conflicts with or clashes with the Jews. By the early 100s, the Romans had become more hostile towards the Jews. Treated harshly and taxed heavily, the Jews grew increasingly bitter. Matters worsened when the Emperor Hadrian banned the practice of certain Jewish rituals. He thought this ban would end the Jewish people's desire for independence and cause them to give up Judaism. Instead, Hadrian's actions made the Jews even more upset. Once again, they rebelled. This time, Hadrian decided to end the rebellion once and for all. The Roman army crushed the Jewish revolt and destroyed Jerusalem in 135 AD. Soon after, they forced the remaining Jews to leave the city.